Hi, my name is Eric, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I talk about theater, theme parks, and immersive events in Los Angeles and across Southern California. I'm so excited today because this thing that I'm talking about puts together theme parks, theater, and immersive events all in one night. I'm talking, of course, about Universal Fan Fest nights. I don't have a playbill to show you, but I have this thing to show you, and I have this thing to show you and hold up. I have this thing to show you and hold up. I can hold up this thing to show you. I can also hold up this thing to, no, actually, we're not going to deal with that yet. But FanFest Nights is in its not inaugural year. FanFest Nights is in its second year at Universal Studios Hollywood. This is an after-hours event that brings together all of your favorite IPs into one night. And I know you hear the word IP and you go, that sounds so immediately corporate to say, oh, your favorite IPs in one place. But when I tell you that after a year like last year, where I came into the first inaugural year of FanFest Nights with very low expectations, only to be completely blown away, I was coming into this year more hyped than I really have been for any event, be it theme park or theater, show, or immersive event that's coming in this year of 2026. FanFest Nights 2026 is only running for 12 nights this year. And the first 3 nights have already gone by, so by the time you're seeing this, there's probably only like 8 or 9 or 6 or 7 of these nights left. But what exactly is FanFest Nights? I did say it is an IP-friendly event, but what exactly does that mean? Well, this includes things like immersive walkthroughs themed to different fandoms. It features different lands. It features immersive events. This year even features a brand new show. There are 3D movies. There are meet and greets. There is all kinds of exclusive merch, all kinds of exclusive food that you can get. And the thing that I wish people understood about FanFest Nights is that it is not just a glorified after-hours theme park meet and greet event. This is an immersive theater event, and I love hearing that something is an immersive theater event. But I get that that is not going to sell a lot of people immediately, other than me, an immersive theme park theater freak nerd. The best thing that I can compare FanFest to, though, is Halloween Horror Nights, which is Universal's Halloween season after-hours event. Think of FanFest Nights as horror nights, but not scary. If you want to walk through an immersive Dungeons & Dragons campaign, because that sounds a lot less scary than walking through an immersive recreation of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this might be for you. If you're not a fan of hyper-realistic violence, blood, gore, guts, something like, you could say, The Purge show that was at Halloween Horror Nights last year, but you do love anime and anime violence and fun, kooky cartoon characters from your favorite anime like One Piece or Sailor Moon, that's going to be at FanFest Nights. And if you like to cosplay, oh man, is FanFest Nights the event for you. There is more cosplay at this event from guests than any other event that I've gone to at a theme park like this. So what kind of fandoms are you going to find this year at FanFest Nights? Well, there is the return of immersive events at Super Nintendo World, in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. One Piece is back, Dungeons & Dragons is back. There's also a few new fandoms that have been added this year. There's a Jurassic Park event. There is a Sailor Moon event. There's also a very large Scooby-Doo event that happens on the Universal backlot sets. And these fandoms are represented in different ways. For One Piece, last year it was just a meet and greet, but this year it's the meet and greet plus an entire show that they added into the Waterworld stage arena. Dungeons & Dragons has a very large immersive walkthrough that takes you through a mini D&D campaign featuring elves and demogorgons, not demogorgons, that's Stranger Things. Beholders, that's what they're called. Can you tell that's not my favorite fandom? There's also a walkthrough themed in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Sailor Moon gets her own show in the Kung Fu Panda Theater along with a meet and greet. So there's lots of different things you can do. It is not simply just Horror Nights walkthroughs like you're used to at Halloween Horror Nights where you're walking through scary movies. There's meet and greets, shows, entire immersive play things. Super Nintendo World has like a Yoshi hunt, scavenger hunt thing. And I think that variety of things to do on a night like this when also the rides are open with almost no waits. And the fact that tickets are as cheap as they are, they range from only $74 to $84, which is really, really cheap compared to some other after-hours theme park events. I think that this is really one of the most impressive events for the money that you spend to get in, and I think it is well worth the value, even if you are not huge fans of most, if not any, of these fandoms that are at FanFest nights. Now, I did say the tickets range from $74 to $84 depending on the night. You can also do an express lane pass, which gets you to the front of the line to any rides or experiences. That's around $144. You can also pay for a $350 VIP experience. There's some exclusive things that are only available if you take the VIP tour. For myself, I just bought the regular opening night ticket, which was around $64 because I'm an annual pass holder at Universal Studios, so I was able to get $10 off my ticket, and it was great. I went with my boyfriend Jerry and my two friends Hunter and Lauren, and we were just ready to have fun and be fans of these things, even though I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan. Let me check. I'm not like the biggest, like, out-of-this-world fan of any of these things. I would guess you could say Scooby-Doo is the thing that I'm the biggest fan of, but that's mostly just because the 2002 movie is, like, one of my favorite movies of all time. But I should say, and I'm gonna go over, like, everything that I did, I was not able to actually do everything that I wanted to at FanFest nights. I do know that if you buy a after 2 p.m. pass, you can come to Universal Studios when the park is still open during its normal operating hours, even though there's no FanFest events taking place, and then you can stay over, but that also gives you access to some events a little earlier on in the night. I showed up at the event start at 7:30, and the event runs from 7:30 to 1 a.m. I, however, was not able to see everything I wanted. I wasn't able to see the One Piece show or meet the One Piece characters or meet Sailor Moon, even though I did get to see her little movie. But just know, if you're planning to go on a night where you want to both ride rides with no waits and also see everything at FanFest, you're gonna have to choose. We kind of mixed it both because we were with two friends who'd never been to the park before. We wanted to take them on some of our favorite rides with no waits and then also see as much of FanFest as possible. However, just know that it can be a little tough to do everything all in one night. However, because the price value I think is so good for what you get, I am considering buying another ticket and going again so I can do the things that I missed and just repeat the things that I really loved about this event. So I'm going to talk about everything I did at FanFest in the order that we did them. We started by entering the front gates and going all the way to the lower lot, taking care of everything in the lower lot of the studios, and then working our way back up the stairway escalators to the front of the park until the end of the night. Jerry, what are you most excited about for FanFest tonight?
I think Scooby-Doo.
Me too. I'm excited for Scooby-Doo.
And seeing Sailor Moon.
In movie form and in real life form.
In real life, yeah.
I'm excited to bring two new friends who have never been to Universal Studios before. We're gonna show two new friends everything we love about Universal Studios and about FanFest. Year 2, hooray! Universal Studios Hollywood is segmented into two sections. There's the upper lot, and then you take these big escalators down to the lower lot, which is where a lot of sound stages are. It's where you'll find the Jurassic Park ride, the Mummy ride. It's also where you'll find Super Nintendo World, and it's where you will find the first FanFest specific event that we did tonight, and that was the Jurassic Park mini immersive land that they built. So as soon as you get off the escalators in the lower lot, you take a sharp left, go around and underneath the escalators, and then on the other side of the queue for the Mummy ride, they have built this giant Jurassic Park archway, and inside are things like vehicles from the movies, one-to-one scale replicas of the dinosaurs from the Jurassic Park films. You'll also find a lot of characters from Jurassic Park that I actually have never seen in the park before. You had John Hammond, who is the owner, proprietor of Jurassic Park from the first film. You will find Jeff Goldblum. His character's name is... Can you tell that I'm not the biggest fan? Not that I dislike any of these IPs. These are just things that I am not like as. Malcolm, that's his name, Ian Malcolm. Ian Malcolm is there. You'll find the big guy in the yellow raincoat. I forget his name. You'll find the Asian scientist played by B.D. Wong, except he's played by a different Asian scientist in this version. There's also a little interactive show that happens near the back of this area where two of these giant velociraptors come out, and then a bunch of like security from Jurassic Park come and they have to wrangle up all of the velociraptors and put them back.
Folks, we gotta show them who's boss. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Nice job, those some moves.
There's this nice interactive moment at the end of this 5-minute show where they have all of us put our hands up to the velociraptors so that they slowly back away back into their enclosure. It was a nice little moment of feeling like I did something by pushing away this puppet dinosaur with a human inside of it that was controlling it. And other than that little 5-minute dinosaur wrangling thing, this area didn't really have like a story necessarily. I wouldn't call this like an interactive theater piece. This was a very cool character meet and greet area though, especially. And this is kind of one of the best things of the whole night. The guy who played Ian Malcolm, which is the Jeff Goldblum character, is like one of the best like characters I've ever met in a theme park. This guy's impression vocally, his mannerisms, his charm, his suaveness, I was flustered. I was completely like at a loss for words when this man came up to me and started talking to me, doing his Jeff Goldblum thing. I was immediately like, hello, hi.
Is that all you want?
Oh. For now.
No one could have predicted that he would be befuddled by that. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Befuddled by laughing.
Very befuddled.
Oxford. You went to Oxford University?
Just like this.
I was.
Did you study there?
Oh, no. I went to New York State University. California Institute of Technology as well. Got my PhD, 2 PhDs in fact. Sorry, Dr. Ian Malcolm. Oh, wait, come on.
That was hot.
Very. I was very befuddled, as he said.
And it's just a fun little cool area to be in. They had steel drum players and these like leaf projections on the walls, and they were playing this Jurassic Park music, and it was such a nice throwback to the original Jurassic Park films. The Jurassic Park ride is now Jurassic World, and it's mostly themed to the new Jurassic Park films, which I'm personally not a huge fan of, but I do really like the original Jurassic Park films, and I'm really glad that this thing was themed very specifically as a throwback to those original films from the 90s. So if you like dinosaurs, if you are a huge fan of Jurassic Park characters, if you want to flirt with a man who might as well just be Jeff Goldblum, this is fun. It also didn't take very long. We were maybe in this area no longer than 10 to 15 minutes. It's not a huge time suck, and because it's an open area, there's not really a line you have to wait in to get inside. On the way out, we also ran into a puppet I think this might be a thing that's in there in the daytime normally, but I've never seen it before. It's this baby triceratops inside of like a little backpack that a performer is holding, and it's this fun little puppetry trick I love where like this person's hand is inside of the puppet, inside of this backpack. So she was controlling this little triceratops baby called Dolores. And then there's like a fake hand with a glove on it that you were supposed to think is her arm, but really her arm is the one inside the puppet, and then her arm's wrapped around this backpack. So it looks like the puppet is really just like alive. It is like, I believed that Dolores was real, and I wanted to take her home with me. She was so freaking cute.
Hello, Dolores.
Oh, she responds really
Oh
well
my
to her
gosh.
name.
May I?
Yes, hi. Good girl.
Oh, she's so sweet.
Oh, she's loving you.
Anyway, after Jurassic Park, we made our way to the Dungeons & Dragons Secrets of Waterdeep experience. Now, this is if you're going towards the Transformers ride, you take a right, and then you go down a hill, and then around to one of the sound stages on the filming lot of Universal Studios. And inside of this soundstage, they have built a gigantic walkthrough experience themed to Dungeons & Dragons. Now, this is returning from last year's FanFest nights, and this was, I would say, my favorite event from FanFest last year, where you enter into this room where you are split into these 4 different parties: a warrior, a mage, something, and a something. I don't really play D&D. But then this campaign starts, and you are meant to sort of take on this role. I think we were in the warrior class this year, and so we enter into this room, and then this performer dressed as a high elf and then a dwarf come in, and they take you through this campaign to uncover the secrets of Waterdeep. You are in this room where there's a giant dragon projection that comes over you, and it sort of like starts setting the room on fire with projections, and you go into the next room, and there's a mimic treasure chest that comes to life that you have to we don't really have to do anything. The performers press a button, then it goes away. But you wave your hands and do magic, and you feel like you did something. And then there is sort of the centerpiece moment of this walkthrough is this giant beholder puppet that is a Jim Henson crafted puppet that is literally like the size of a building, and all of these different tentacles with eyeballs, and it has this eye and this articulated mouth. And we disturb its slumber, and so then the elf and the dwarf tell us that we have to insult the beholder to like get him to calm down so that we can leave. And I make up something crazy like you smell bad, or I don't know. It's a theme park. I tried not to be too mean about it.
You think you can steal from Xanathar and live to tell the tale?
This is fuckery! No!
Get out of my sight!
Anyway, it ends with them finding the magic sword or whatever and saving the day. It's I 2 years in a row, and I still couldn't really tell you the plot of this thing, but the plot isn't the point. The point is that you are ushered from room to room with all of these incredibly detailed, very aesthetically accurate set pieces and props and characters that make you feel like you're in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. And I love that it is an immersive theater show. It's not like a Horror Nights walkthrough when you're often just walking down a hallway and someone jumps out at you and there's a loud noise that plays. This is a story with actors that you are with the entire time, and you really get the time in every space to take in the area before you're moved on to the next thing, and it really feels like this whole complete thing. So I love this walkthrough. I don't know if it'll come back next year. I never saw a wait for this more than 10 minutes the entire night. Every time I checked, as the waits grew for every other event, Secrets of Waterdeep kind of stayed where it was. I think that could be a thing that, like, you can get a lot of people through. I think, like, every group is, like, 30 to 40 people, so they're ushering a lot in at once to this event. But also, it's a returning event. It's not necessarily new. I didn't notice any changes from last year's Dungeons & Dragons, but I still think that this is, like, such a good proof of concept for something that was here last year for, like, what FanFest could be, which is immersive theaters, cool characters, and not scary. After that, we went to Super Nintendo World, where I got this little guy and this little guy, because Super Nintendo World for FanFest Nights has been taken over by the Yoshis. Did you scream like I did when you heard that? With joy? Because this was so damn cute. Yoshi's took over Super Nintendo World last year. However, this year they streamlined the experience and made it so much better. Because rather than doing a sort of Yoshi egg hunt where they hid a bunch of Yoshi eggs around Super Nintendo World, instead what you got when you came in was this little Yoshi headband and this little pamphlet here with little word fill-in puzzles you had to. Some of them were like scavenger hunts, were like, what does this sign over by the bathroom say? Or like, what does Mario say when he hits a block? You had to put together all of these letters, and then every letter that is circled, you put them all together for a secret password that you then take to a certain part of the land where you get to do a special meet and greet. Last year, the meet and greet was a special Yoshi color. This year, the meet and greet is getting to meet Green Yoshi with Mario, who are never seen together in Super Nintendo World. So getting a meet and greet where they're both together is really cute. You may notice that I didn't fill in any of this. My boyfriend filled in all of his, and then I just wanted to keep mine pristine because I think this is a cute little collectible to have, and as well as this little Yoshi hat. And then throughout the land, they had 4 different Yoshis. There was the blue Yoshi, the yellow Yoshi, the purple Yoshi, and the pink Yoshi, I believe, scattered throughout Super Nintendo World. And what I loved about this, last year at FanFest Nights, the line to meet the Yoshi was so long because the prize was so incredible. Oh my god, your prize is you get to meet Yoshi. Well, everybody wants to meet this one Yoshi, so the wait to get a picture with Yoshi, even after you figure out the Yoshi egg hunt puzzle, was waiting in a line for 2 hours. Instead, what they're doing this year is they just put all the Yoshis throughout the land, so that way no single Yoshi ever gets a line that's too long, because if the purple Yoshi line is really long, well, look over here, the blue Yoshi line, it isn't there. You can just walk right up and meet the blue Yoshi. And just having this, like, fun Yoshi energy in the land, and they were playing like Yoshi music throughout the land. There is this moment, I didn't see this, and this is part of the reason why I want to go back and buy another ticket. When all the Yoshis come out at the beginning of their meet and greet set, they all meet in the center of the land and stand in a line together and do like a little like choreographed Yoshi dance. And when I found out that I missed this, I almost cried because it's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I think that the Yoshi takeover at Super Nintendo World, it's not the most like expansive or expensive thing they could have done, but I think it is such a nice little addition and a change from the regular like daytime things you can normally do. Oh my god, I've already been talking so long, but there was still so much we had to do. After that, we went to the Waterdeep Tavern. This was the Dungeons and Dragons themed tavern. It's like a little second story bar that they built above like where they enter the Jurassic World ride. It wasn't anything special. They had like D&D drinks. I had this really like yummy like green apple fizzy thing with boba. Jerry got this like misty dry ice red whiskey thing. Again, not like the coolest thing that could have done, but what I did like is that there was no line. Anytime I have gone to this bar, which they usually theme to like something for horror nights, it is like at least a 30-minute wait to get a drink and some food. Again, on opening night, I should say, of this event, we walked straight into this bar, walked right up, got our drink, got our food, and sat down, and we were out. It was so fast. So I don't know if that's an issue of they are not selling as many tickets as they would like, or I saw that they were sold out on opening night. So the fact that if this is a sold out event and the lines are still basically non-existent, I think that's a good thing. If they're limiting the capacity for the sake of like guest experience to be better, because Horror Nights guest experience has gone down a lot because I think of how much they oversell the event now. This event did not feel oversold. This event had room to breathe. This event gave you the time to like sit and take in and think about what you were going to do next instead of feeling like you were on a rush to get everything done. So that could be like a little secret of like, hey, FanFest Nights, if you want like a really empty park with no lines for rides, a few extra fun immersive things to do when there's not a lot of people around, when you can walk right up and get a drink or a front seat on a ride, it's golden. All right, so after that, we were done in the lower lot. We went up the escalators up to the upper lot to what I would say is probably the headline event of this year at FanFest Nights, and that is Scooby-Doo meets the Universal Monsters. Now, this is a somewhat of a follow-up to, I would say, what was last year's headline event, which was the Back to the Future experience. If you don't know, last year they had a Back to the Future event where you could get on the studio tour trams, which would drive you out to Courthouse Square, which is one of the main filming locations for the original Back to the Future film. And then you got off the tram, and then you met Marty and Doc and Biff and all of these Back to the Future characters who were sort of acting out a little show where you could choose who you wanted to follow. You could either follow Marty and he'd be doing something on this side of the square. You could follow Doc and he'd be going over here. There are moments when there would be live music. There are moments when the characters would meet. And then all of these characters are also interactable. So you as a guest can just walk up to them and like ask Marty McFly, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? You need help with something? And it was by far the best, coolest thing about FanFest last year. So for this year, they are following that up by doing something very similar, where instead of being themed to Back to the Future, it is now themed to Scooby-Doo and the Universal Monsters. Instead of going to Courthouse Square, you are being taken out to the little Europe sets of the backlot. These are where a lot of the original Universal Monster movies were filmed. It's where they filmed a big chunk of Frankenstein and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And this year, the Universal Monsters are loose, and only Scoob and the gang, and you, the guest, can help fix what's happening. Anyway, I was expecting really big things from this, considering how well received Back to the Future was. We get to the backlot where the little monsters are loose, and I was dreading this part. This event is good, but it's not great. And I don't know if that was opening night jitters, if there's some things that need to be worked out logistically. But essentially what happens is you are driving through to the lot, and then you get stopped at this monster mural, and then you watch this video on the tram screens telling you that there's a monster movie being filmed on the back lot, but there is a caped, masked villain who has taken control of the monsters and is ruining the filming of this new monster movie. Can Scooby and the gang and you work together to solve who this villain is that's taken over the monsters? Well, I tried my best. You get to these little Europe sets, and immediately it is so visually impressive and intense and colorful. All of these walls have these beautiful, bright colors projected onto them. And it immediately is evocative of the 60s, 70s cartoons with very 60s, 70s flower power hippie aesthetic colors being used. These normally white buildings are now bright pink and bright blue and bright green. And then inside of the windows of these facades, you also have these contrasting colors. If a building is bright blue, then the windows are going to be bright pink. If a building is bright yellow, then the windows are going to be bright green. And they're playing the music from the Scooby-Doo series, and it's so goofy and silly, and you want to take it all in. But what happens is you get off the tram and you get this little mystery manual where, as you can see inside, you have some instructions. We have to solve a mystery. I mean, there's some suspects. These are original characters that they made up for this event. Some suspects who might be responsible for taking over the monsters. And you have these clues that are given to you from all of the mystery machine. You even have a little notebook in the back where you can take notes. And then on the back you have, as you can see, this little map of the little Europe sets. You get let off right here at the entrance. We've got immediately our Scooby-Doo meet and greet by the mystery machine. And then you are sort of let in to just explore wherever you are allowed to on this map. Now, where this thing falters, where I think Back to the Future absolutely soared, is that the story is so much harder to follow because it is not playing out around you. You have to engage in the story for it to happen. In Back to the Future last year, like I said, you can just pick a character and they would be constantly moving around different parts of the set, and all these characters sort of wove around each other like clockwork. And then at the top of the hour, there would be this big finale, and then the show would restart, and then it would happen again. There is not sort of a repeating constant show this time. Instead, what happens is you are let out onto the Monsters movie set, and at different parts of the set is where the different members of the Mystery Machine gang are hanging out. So, for example, you come across Fred, who is at the equipment tent, the movie film equipment tent where they have all this gear. And he is sort of just there under this tent, and people can line up and they can talk to him and they can ask him about clues and what he thinks. But he doesn't necessarily have any specific show moments. Same for Velma. She's around the corner at the Video Village where you can explore her little tent area and see if you can find any clues there. Daphne is at the wardrobe tent, which is very fun and on theme. Same for Shaggy. He's at the craft food services tent, very on theme for him. But those characters all remain stationary at that tent. You'll never find Fred wandering around these little Europe sets. He's not a character you can follow. He's a character that you seek out yourself. However, the monsters are free roaming. Frankenstein is here, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and Dracula are all wandering around these different areas of the little Europe set. So to put everything I've been talking about together, you have all of these beautiful lighting projections. You have all these characters in different places. You have the monsters wandering around. You have this little book that you have to be looking at, and it is too much. It is too much. I was immediately overwhelmed. I get off the tram, I get handed this book, I stop in the middle of the walkway. It's really dark. I can't really read it. It's hard to take it in when I also am trying to not be in the way with all these people who are doing the same thing as me. You have to sort of push your way through a crowd to get to an area where you can examine one of the clues. It's not really telegraphed how exactly you are supposed to find the clues. And then even so, this is a 12-page book, and who is gonna read all of that while they're also walking around? And I don't want to say that LA theme park audiences are dumb. I don't want to say that. But there is this element of, we are at a theme park where there's a lot of things happening, and it takes a long time to get all the way to these sets on the studio tour drive. It takes a long time to get back. You could spend hours at this Scooby-Doo event if you wanted to. However, by the time we got to it, it was already getting pretty late in the night, and I was already kind of feeling the rush of, oh my god, I need to figure out this mystery. What do I do? Velma, what do you think? Oh my god, Shaggy, what are you doing over there? And I think it's a little overwhelming. Back to the Future last year It was very cool because you could just sit in one place and stop and watch the whole thing happen around you. There's an element of having to engage in these things that every other person is trying to engage with at the same time that just makes a lot of these things kind of impossible to do. I didn't really get to talk to Fred or Velma or Daphne or Shaggy because every time I'd go up to them, there was a huge, massive crowd around their designated areas. And you can walk up to the monsters, but they're not going to talk to you. They're monsters. They're out wreaking havoc. So there's not as much accessibility, I think, which is the huge problem with this immersive thing. I really applaud what they were going for. I can see that Universal was trying to do something really cool and really different from what they did last year. But I don't necessarily think that all the pieces come together in a way that is easy to digest, especially with the limited amount of time that most people are going to spend at this area. Also, let me just say, the story of this was a little bit confusing. So there's this guy who's like wearing a mask and a cape who has gained control of the monsters to disrupt the filming of this monster movie on the set. However, then you come and you see the monsters and they're just kind of walking around. They have these sort of glowy neon lights wrapped around them, so they're easy to pick out in the darkness in this very crowded area. But every so often, one of the monsters will stand up on a stage and there's this really cool techno metal music that plays and the monsters throw their hands up and then the crowd goes, "Yeah, Frankenstein." And I'm like, so what's the chaos here? What is the havoc that Frankenstein went up his arms and what is the danger? I don't feel in danger. I don't see the monsters doing anything dangerous. They're kind of just walking around like they normally do. So I was a little bit confused about what is the urgency here? Anyway, at the very end of this Scooby-Doo experience, you are sort of ushered over to this little side area where you get to watch the grand finale show, and that is where they do the unmasking, where Scoob and the gang, they figure out who the culprit was, and they pull the mask off, and he says, "I would have gotten away if it wasn't for you meddling kids." Very classic Scooby-Doo, very iconic Scooby-Doo. There's even a little projected animated door chase scene that plays above the stage. And it's a fun little 5-minute reveal. It's a satisfying thing. I've even heard that on every night of the event, it's going to be a different one of the 4 culprits, which is cool. So if you go multiple nights, you'll have to solve the mystery in a different way to discover who the different culprit is. That's nice. And I do appreciate that even if you are a dummy like me and didn't end up actually solving the mystery before you get there, you are still allowed to have the reveal of who it was to in fact discover if you were right or wrong, if you were following all of these instructions that are in this book that it is too dark to read. Anyway, after Scooby-Doo, we hopped back on the tram to go back to the upper lot of the park, and by that point, we were already almost out of time. I think by the time we got back to the park, it was 11 o'clock, meaning we had around 2 hours left, and that didn't feel like enough time. This is when we had to decide, are we going to do the Harry Potter Forbidden Forest walkthrough, or are we going to see the One Piece show? Because the last One Piece show was about to happen, but I was worried that if we didn't do the One Piece show, that we weren't going to do the Harry Potter walkthrough. And despite my complicated feelings about Harry Potter, I'm less interested in One Piece because it's a show that I've never seen a single episode was. So we made the call to go to the Harry Potter Forbidden Forest walkthrough experience. Now, I don't really want to talk about Harry Potter on this channel. It's not a franchise I like giving oxygen to, which is why I didn't get any footage of it, because I don't really care about promoting this franchise anymore. And also it was too dark. So I did the video. If I would have taken a video, it would have looked good anyway. But because of J.K. Rowling's views regarding trans people. But because I have a lot of intense feelings about J.K. Rowling and her opinions and her actions regarding the trans community, I'm not going to get into that here. I'm just going to really quickly say the Harry Potter walkthrough was cool. It was. I unfortunately still really love the visual aesthetic of the Harry Potter films. However, I can really only engage with them on an aesthetic level, and that's it at this point. But what they did for this experience was they take the outdoor queue for the Harry Potter ride, the outdoor queue which has never been used beyond like the first week of this ride being open, and they took this queue space that is very much in the woods of the Forbidden Forest outside of Hogwarts in the world of Harry Potter, and they made a little like walkthrough mini event. This is very similar to the Dungeons and Dragons walkthrough that we did, where you are led in these small groups, small-ish, I would say probably like 15 max, and you are sort of on a walk through the woods with a Hogwarts professor, and you stop at these little moments where you have to like use your wands to like make the pixies freeze, or you have to like banish these giant spiders that come down from the trees. You meet a centaur at one point. You have to use Lumos to make the dark vines disappear. And it ends with this genuinely, I will say this was genuinely stunning, this gigantic hippogriff animatronic puppet that they built, where the dark vines go away and then suddenly this giant like hippogriff like arcs its head up and these wings come out, and it's like so articulate and expensive looking. And I genuinely can't tell if this is like a puppet being operated by a person or if it's like an animatronic. I think it might be a blend of both. But it's this stunning moment when like the whole forest floods with light and this very majestic creature appears. I will say this is the longest wait of the night that we had. And I think in general, this Forbidden Forest walkthrough was gonna be the longest wait of the night that you have. And I think that is merely because the groups have to be so small. You are literally moving through what is essentially like switchback space that was made for waiting in line and not for ushering large groups of people through. We waited probably around 40 minutes to get into this experience, and that is spent waiting in the actual indoor queue part of the Forbidden Journey ride. So it's an interesting thing where you kind of wait in the queue, but you go backwards through it, away from the front of the ride instead of towards the front of the ride, because what you're moving towards is actually what is the back of the line of the ride, which is where the experience is in this outdoor queue space. It's hard to know when the best time to do this is, because if you go first thing at the beginning of the night, it's gonna be kind of daylight still. And I don't think this is an experience meant for daylight. It's meant to be very dark and mysterious, so you want to wait till later in the night, but the lines are only going to get longer as the night goes on, so pick your poison. You're going to have to wait regardless unless you have a front of the line pass. I would say just stick it out if it's not more than an hour. If you wait less than an hour, if you wait between 30 to 40 minutes like we did for this, I think that is a good amount of time to wait for something that is a pretty sizable experience. I will say this took about 10 minutes to get through, and the performers are great, and they're doing their accents, and there's a lot of really unique things that were built and designed for this thing. Yeah, after that, we were basically done for the night. The last thing that we did was the Sailor Moon. Hold on. I have to get the full title for this. I'll be right back. The last thing that we did was Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon The Miracle, Moon Palace Chapter Deluxe. Did I sell you on it? Does that sound cool? I thought it sounded pretty cool. This is in the theater that normally has the Kung Fu Panda adventure movie, and this is following in the tradition of something that Universal has been doing for a while now, which is taking movies that were designed for Universal Studios Japan and bringing them to the US for special events. Last year at FanFest, what we got was a Jujutsu Kaisen film inside this theater. For Halloween Horror Nights last year, we had a Chainsaw Man exclusive film. And then for this year, we are getting Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon The Miracle Moon Palace Chapter Deluxe, which is a 10-minute animated short film featuring all of your favorite characters from Sailor Moon. You have Sailor Moon, you have Tuxedo Mask, you have little girl Sailor Moon, you have Venus, I think, Saturn, Uranus, she was there. I didn't watch a lot of Sailor Moon growing up. However, she's iconic and she's a diva, and I couldn't not see her show. Funny thing about this was getting close to the end of the night, so everyone was very tired. We go into the pre-show room where they show you a little mini movie explaining the plot of the movie before you go in to see it, and the audio didn't start. The little pre-show audio didn't start. We had subtitles playing at the bottom, but there was no sound, no music, no voices. And so, theme park crowds, when they're very delirious, do very funny, delirious things, including an entire room of 200 weebs reading out the subtitles with like anime character like emphasis on all of the lines of dialogue.
Don't worry, I've got it covered.
This is the legendary silver crystal. It is the most powerful treasure in the universe. With this, I can take you
Straight to the moon.
But anyway, pre-show over, you go inside the theater, you sit in the little seats, and they jiggle back and forth while you watch this 10-minute movie about Sailor Moon at the Moon Palace, and then an evil witch shows up and causes chaos, but then using the power of moon magic and friendship, she saves the day. Can you believe it? It was really cute. I do recommend it because it is a fun moment of like seeing this bizarre Japanese anime cultural crossover happening here in the US parks. I do think it's funny that you can tell that these were made for a different theater than what they are playing in, because you have this giant screen, and then you also have these like very plain white walls on the left and right sides that are normally used for like projection mapping for the Kung Fu Panda show. The show wasn't designed for that, so instead you have these like beautiful like Adobe After Effects like colorful star flashes and like blue colors going on, but they're not like actually integrated into the movie. And it's also in this strange like 3D animated style, not in like the traditional like 2D hand-drawn animation style that the Sailor Moon anime is. So the girls look a little plasticky, I won't lie. But regardless, it's fun. It's in Japanese, so there's a lot of subtitles you gotta read, but I think it's fun. Unfortunately though, Sailor Moon, who was also a meet and greet character outside the theater, had already stopped doing her meet and greets for the night. So I did not get to go up to her and do the little Sailor Moon hand motion things. I really wanted to see her, despite having never seen an episode of her show. And then that was the end of our night, because by that point, we had already missed the last of the One Piece shows for the night. And that's a bummer, because I would say, like, Scooby-Doo aside, it has seemed like One Piece is the headlining thing for FanFest. It was by far the most well-received thing from last year's FanFest, alongside the Back to the Future event. And all it was last year was like a meet and greet with like Luffy and the pirate crew. But that was like the craziest line that you could not get any, you were lucky if you got to meet Luffy and the pirate crew last year at FanFest, because the line was just like snaked around the entire upper lot of the park. And in regards to cosplay, which is a big part of this event, of people dressing up like their favorite fandoms, there is more One Piece cosplay at this event than you can possibly imagine. It's like Anime Expo, I swear to God. Alongside Sailor Moon and One Piece, we may well have been at the LA Convention Center. So I feel like it was a no-brainer for Universal to bring back the One Piece meet and greet pirate adventure that they had last year. And it was also a no-brainer to expand that into also being its own entirely standalone show that takes over the entirety of the Waterworld show set. Now, similar to Sailor Moon, this is a show that was playing at the Waterworld show in Universal Studios Japan. So they've brought it from Osaka to that park and translated it into English, and then have completely staged the show again here. And while I didn't get to see it myself, I did watch a full YouTube video of it after, so I'm going to talk about it like I did see it. Holy cow, is this show cool. I'm actually really bummed I didn't get to go. It's one of the reasons why I'm probably going to buy another ticket to this event and go again. Compared to other times when Universal has tried to like stage an IP spin-off show inside of the Waterworld set. For example, Halloween Horror Nights has a Purge show, and I hate that show. I think that show's so lame. And I think it's because it's not campy enough and it's not silly enough. It really like wants you to take it seriously, like the idea of the purge happening on water. This One Piece show is high anime camp, and I love it. And I love it because even though like I don't know any of the characters from One Piece other than Luffy, anytime any character appears in this show, the entire crowd goes absolutely bananas for these One Piece characters. And the whole show is full of these really impressive martial arts like fight choreography that is really cool and really thrilling to watch. You're still using all of like the tricks you're used to in Waterworld, towers falling over and people riding jet skis around and pirate boats and people doing things with swords. There's this moment where this character is like defending himself from two swords that are coming down on him at the same time. But then like the lights focus in for like one moment and it slows down like it's like it would stop like on a frame like in an anime, and then pushing out and then expanding the lights again. And there are so many little things in this show that feel like taking these like quintessential anime moments and theatricalizing them and making them epic and cool and exactly what you would think an anime fight in real life would look like. And I think it's just such a perfect like marriage of IPs. You have One Piece, which is one of the most popular animes, one of the most longest running animes in the world, happening on this stunt show set that is themed to a movie that no one's ever seen before, but it's about a world full of water. So you're putting pirates on water with all of these cool like set choreography fight pieces and all these explosions and these lights and lasers, and it's so cool. And I'm so bummed I didn't get to see it for real. But I think it is like kind of the cherry on top of like everything that is already present at this event. Because like I said, it's theater, theme parks, and immersive all in one night. You're getting this incredibly well-directed, well-choreographed, well-cast show because the performers lived these characters in real life so believably. And then if you're not into One Piece, you can go hang out with Scooby and the gang on the backlot. If you're a huge D&D nerd, you can live your own campaign. If you're a little sissy boy and love Yoshis, you can go to Super Nintendo World and hang out with the Yoshis. And I just think that this is like one of the coolest things that you can spend your money on and go to a theme park and do for 5 hours. Compare this to Disney's After Hours event, where you are paying literally double the price. When I went to Disney After Hours Pride 2 years ago, I paid $160 for a 4-hour event, and the only thing that was really going on was like a few special meet and greets and like a little fireworks show. And that's it. For less than half of that price, you are getting everything that FanFest has. You are getting original shows, you are getting incredible character meet and greets, you're getting walkthroughs, you're getting all of these rides that are open, and it is 5.5-ish hours, which is so much more than the Disney After Hours events are. I just think there's no reason to not do this if you haven't. I do think that there is an issue of advertising and marketing with FanFest. I don't think that Universal is doing the best job at like selling what this really is. I think last year especially, I was expecting FanFest to just be like some cool meet and greets and some rides, like what the Disney events are. But when you see the level of craft and detail and creativity that is on display for this event, I don't think you can really compare it to like any other After Hours event right now. And it's such a cool thing to have happening in the spring. I feel like fall into Christmas with Halloween and Christmas and all of those theme park events, the second half, really the last third of every year at theme parks is crazy. There's so much going on. To have something happening in the first half of the year in the spring that is as expansive and as detailed and cool as these like later in the year events are, I really hope they bring this back. I really hope that they refine things. I really hope they find fun, new, creative ways to bring in different IPs. And I really hope that the crowds see how cool this is and like really support it so we can have more things like this. So that is my review. My very long review. Wow. My very long review of FanFest Nights 2026 at Universal Studios Hollywood. If you went, tell me in the comments what you thought of it. What was your favorite event? I will say the D&D thing still might be my favorite thing, even though it was like a repeat from last year. I just think that like that Beholder puppet is so freaking cool. And I was really impressed with Jurassic Park. Those might be my two favorite things that happened this year at FanFest. And also tell me what else you want to see at FanFest. I think that there's a lot of room to bring some more anime into FanFest. Evangelion, maybe. And you know I'm always going to ask for a Death Becomes Her immersive experience. That can go at FanFest or at Horror Nights. I have pages of a write-up for what I think a Death Becomes Her theme park immersive walkthrough would be, but that's another video for another day. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.